Introduction, Part 2, Beginning Again, but Differently. If you're here, it means something inside you is ready, ready to feel lighter, ready to breathe more freely, ready to stop living inside the endless echo chamber of what if and what will happen. Part 1 of this journey may have opened your eyes to how overthinking shapes your life. Part 2 isn't about repeating those lessons. It's about going deeper. It's about learning to live in a way where peace isn't something you chase, but something you return to again and again, even when life is uncertain. Because life will still be uncertain. People will still have opinions. Plans will still change. Unexpected things will still arrive at inconvenient times. The goal is not to control life. The goal is to no longer let fear control you. Why Part 2 matters. Overthinking rarely disappears overnight. It's a habit, a survival strategy, sometimes even a coping mechanism that once helped you. Maybe it helped you avoid conflict. Maybe it helped you predict moods in an unpredictable home. Maybe it helped you stay cautious when the world felt unsafe. But now that same habit keeps you trapped. You double guess yourself. You wait for perfect clarity before acting. You apologize for feelings you haven't even expressed yet. And somewhere along the way, you stopped trusting your own voice. Part 2 is about rebuilding that trust. Not loudly, not dramatically, but gently. The way a person learns to walk again after carrying too much weight for too long. What you will explore here. In these next chapters, you won't just hear ideas, you'll practice shifts. You will learn how to recognize when your mind is inventing problems, how to separate thinking from worrying, how to calm your body so your brain stops yelling, how to stop rehearsing conversations that may never happen, how to make decisions without spiraling, how to let go without feeling like you're giving up, and most importantly, you'll learn how to treat yourself with the kind of compassion you've always given to everyone else. Because the voice in your head does not need to be the enemy. It can become a guide, honest, caring, grounded, once it is no longer fueled by fear. This is not about becoming perfect. Let's clear something up before we continue. You will still overthink sometimes. You will still worry. You will still catch yourself spiraling. That doesn't mean you failed. Growth isn't measured by how rarely you struggle. It's measured by how quickly and gently you return. Returning means noticing the thought, breathing into the moment, and choosing presence instead of panic. Some days it will feel natural. Some days it will feel like work. Both are okay. A promise for this journey. Throughout this audiobook, you'll be invited to pause, reflect, breathe, and notice. Not every insight will land immediately, but the ones that are meant for you will linger. They'll show up when you're anxious in traffic, when you're replaying a conversation in the shower, when you're lying awake at night, trying to outthink tomorrow, and you'll remember, I don't need to solve everything right now. I just need to be here. Bit by bit, your relationship with your mind will shift. Thoughts will still visit, but they won't stay as long. Fear will still knock, but it won't get to run the house. You'll start living again, not inside your head, but in your life. Moving forward. As we begin Part 2, take one slow breath together with me. In, hold gently, and out. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to fix everything today. Just stay open. Stay curious. Stay willing to see yourself not as a problem to manage, but as a human being learning to feel safe in their own mind. This is the next step on your journey back to clarity, trust, and calm. And I'm glad you're here. Chapter 1. When your mind won't let go. There are moments when your mind refuses to rest. You lie in bed, the room is quiet, the world is sleeping, and still, your thoughts race. You replay things you said. You imagine conversations that haven't even happened yet. You try to plan every possible outcome as if certainty could finally let you breathe, but certainty never arrives that way. Overthinking always promises relief. It says, if I just think a little longer, I'll finally feel in control. Instead, the opposite happens. The more you think, the heavier life feels. The more you analyze, the more distant peace becomes. The mind is doing what it was designed to do: predict, protect, prepare. But it does not know when to stop. And when there is no real danger, it invents one, so it has something to solve. You begin to wonder, why can't I just relax? Why does my brain always assume the worst? Why do I feel tense even when nothing is wrong? The truth is simple, but not always easy to accept. Overthinking is not about what is happening. It is about what you are afraid might happen. You fear the argument. You fear the failure. You fear the disappointment in someone's eyes. So your mind creates scenarios, endless possibilities, hoping one of them will protect you. But protection built from worry is fragile. It keeps you busy instead of safe. And it makes life feel like a test you are constantly preparing for, but never taking. Pause for a moment. Notice your breath. Not forcing it, just noticing. Feel the way your chest rises, the way the air cools as it moves in and warms as it leaves. Your life is not in the imaginary moments your brain keeps replaying. It is here, in this breath, in the sensation of being alive right now. When we overthink, we leave the present. We travel backward into memories we cannot rewrite or forward into futures we cannot fully control. And the only place we actually have power, the present moment, goes ignored. You may believe that thinking everything through is responsible, that worrying means you care, that controlling the details proves you are strong. But strength is not found in tension. Strength is found in trust, especially trust in yourself. Think about how many situations you have already survived, problems you didn't see coming, moments you didn't think you could handle. Yet here you are, still standing, still learning, still growing. Your past is evidence, not of perfection, but of resilience. Overthinking says, if I get this wrong, everything will fall apart. Experience quietly replies, even when things go wrong, you still find a way. There is freedom in remembering that you do not have to predict everything to handle it. You just have to meet life as it happens, one piece at a time. Imagine placing your worries on a table in front of you, not pushing them away, just setting them down. You look at them and gently ask, which of these are truly mine to carry? Some belong to other people's expectations. Some belong to fears your younger self learned. Some belong to stories you've repeated so often that they feel like truth. And some, only a few, actually need your attention. When you separate real problems from imagined ones, something shifts. The noise quiets. The body loosens. You begin to realize that not every thought deserves your energy, and not every scenario deserves rehearsal. Overthinking thrives on urgency. It tells you everything must be solved immediately. But your life is allowed to unfold slowly. Answers can come in their own time. Decisions can be revisited. Conversations can happen when you are ready. There is room to breathe. So as we begin this journey together, remember this. You do not need to eliminate thoughts. You do not need to shut your mind off. What you are learning is a new relationship with your mind. One where thoughts are information, not commands. Possibilities, not predictions. Visitors, not permanent residents. And as you practice noticing, breathing, and gently returning to the present, you will discover something powerful. The moment you stop fighting your mind, it finally has space to soften. This is where peace begins. Not with control, but with presence. Not with perfection, but with patience. Not by thinking harder, but by finally learning to let go. Chapter 2. When preparation becomes worry. There is a point where healthy thinking quietly crosses a line. It begins innocently. You want to be ready. You want to make the right choice. You want to protect yourself and the people you love. So you plan. You analyze. You replay conversations, draft messages, and review possible outcomes. And for a moment, it feels productive. But preparation has a natural stopping place. A moment when the plan is good enough, and the next step is simply living it. Overthinking doesn't recognize that moment. Instead, it whispers, think a little more, check one more angle, consider one more possibility. And before you notice, you've left reality and stepped into a storm of imagined futures. The cost of trying to predict everything. Overthinking makes promises it cannot keep. It tells you that if you anticipate every scenario, nothing will hurt. Nothing will surprise you. Nothing will feel out of control. But life does not work that way. Preparing for every possible outcome is like trying to hold the ocean in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the more slips through your fingers, and the more tense, tired, and overwhelmed you feel. You begin to see harmless situations as potential disasters. You hesitate to take opportunities. You delay decisions until clarity feels perfect, and perfect never arrives. Behind all of it is a quiet belief. If I stop thinking, something bad will happen. And so your mind stays on high alert long after the moment has passed. Worry feels busy, but solves very little. Let's be honest. Worry feels like work. It feels like effort. It feels like you're doing something. But worry rarely leads to action. It leads to circles. You replay, you rehearse, you rewrite reality 1,000 times, and yet nothing moves. The conversation never happens. The project never starts. The boundary is never set. Thinking becomes a substitute for living. Preparation asks, what do I need to do next? Worry asks, what if everything goes wrong? Those are completely different questions, and they create completely different lives. A gentle experiment. The next time you feel your thoughts spiraling, try this. Pause. Take one slow breath, then ask, is this problem real or imagined? If it's real, what is the smallest step I can take today? If it's imagined, what do I need to let go of right now? You may notice something powerful. Most of what you rehearse in your mind is not happening in this moment. It exists only in fear, not in reality. And slowly, you begin to see that thinking more is not the answer. Presence is. You don't have to be ready to begin. Overthinking convinces you that confidence comes first, that once you feel certain, then you will act. But confidence is not a prerequisite. It is a side effect. It grows after you move, after you try, after you take imperfect, shaky steps forward and discover you didn't fall apart. You handled it. Maybe not flawlessly, but honestly, humanly, enough. Over time, this builds a new belief. I may not know exactly how things will go, but I trust myself to handle them when they come. And that trust is worth more than any imagined safety. Turning toward real life. Again, imagine for a moment that you laid every worry down on the ground beside you, not throwing them away, just setting them down. You look at them calmly and say, some of you deserve action, some of you just want attention, and some of you were never mine to carry at all. You pick up only what truly matters. You take one small step, then another, and slowly you notice. Your breath deepens, your shoulders soften, the world feels a little quieter. Preparation remains, grounded, practical, supportive. Worry loosens its grip. You haven't escaped uncertainty. You've simply chosen not to build your life around it, and that is the beginning of freedom. Chapter 3. The stories your mind keeps telling. Every thought has a voice. Some are calm, some are curious, and some speak with the authority of absolute truth, even when they're not true at all. Overthinking isn't just about too many thoughts. It's about believing every single one of them. Your mind creates stories to make sense of the world. Stories about who you are. Stories about what other people think. Stories about what will happen if you try, speak, love, rest, ask, or fail. And the more often a story is repeated, the more convincing it becomes. The brain loves familiar narratives. If you grew up hearing that you had to be perfect to be valued, your brain may tell the story, if I make a mistake, people will leave. If you learn that conflict leads to chaos, your brain might whisper, stay quiet, keep the peace at any cost. If you experienced unpredictable love, your thoughts may insist, don't get too close, it won't last. These stories are not random. They were shaped by experiences, environments, and moments when your younger self did the best they could to feel safe. The problem isn't that the stories existed. The problem is that you're still living by them. Even when your life has changed, thoughts are not orders. A thought can feel incredibly real. They're disappointed in me. Everyone else is further ahead. Something bad is about to happen. Your body reacts, as if the thought were fact. Your heart speeds up, Your stomach tightens, your breath shortens. But a thought is not a command. A thought is not a prophecy. A thought is simply a visitor, carrying information, not destiny. You can listen without obeying. You can hear the worry and still choose presence. You can feel the fear and still take a step forward. You can acknowledge the story and still write a different one. This is not denial. It is leadership. You leading your mind instead of your mind leading you. Questioning the narrative. When a painful thought arises, try gently asking, is this the only story available? Often you'll find another possibility. Maybe they're not ignoring you. They're busy. Maybe you're not behind. You're on your timeline. Maybe things aren't falling apart. They're changing shape. The mind tends to default to worst-case thinking because worst-case thinking feels protective. If you expect pain, you think you won't be surprised by it. But expecting pain doesn't prevent it. It only makes you live it twice. Once in your head and again in reality. You deserve better than rehearsed suffering. Writing a kinder script. Try replacing harsh narratives with grounded, compassionate ones. Instead of, I always mess things up. Say, I'm learning, and learning sometimes looks messy. Instead of, people will judge me. Say, some might, but many won't, and I can survive both. Instead of, I shouldn't feel this way. Say, this feeling is here. I can sit with it and take care of myself. Notice, these replacements are not sugar-coated positivity. They are balanced, honest, and humane. They make room for imperfection without drowning in shame. Becoming the author? Again, you cannot stop every thought from appearing, but you can stop handing them the pen. Each time you pause, breathe, and question the story, you reclaim a little more space in your own mind. You begin to see that the voice of fear is loud, but it is not the only voice available. There is also the voice of wisdom, the voice of experience, the voice that knows. You have handled so much already, and you will handle what comes next too. Over time, your mind becomes less of a battlefield and more of a conversation. And that is where overthinking begins to lose its power. Not because the stories disappear, but because you finally remember. You are allowed to write new ones. Chapter 4. When your mind becomes a courtroom. Overthinking has a way of turning life into a trial. Every decision, every memory, every feeling is dragged to the stand and interrogated. Was that the right choice? Did I sound stupid? What if I hurt someone? What if I should have done more? You become the judge, the jury, the attorney, and the accused, all at once. And the verdict is almost always the same. You should have known better. It is exhausting to live that way, constantly reviewing your past like evidence, constantly rehearsing the future as if preparing a defense. But here is the quiet truth most people never learn. You are not on trial. Your life is not a case to be argued. The illusion of the perfect decision, overthinking convinces you that somewhere out there exists a flawless choice, a path with zero regret, zero discomfort, zero risk. So you hesitate, you stall, you weigh every angle again and again, terrified of choosing wrong. But most decisions in life are not right or wrong. They are simply different experiences that teach different lessons. One path may teach courage, another may teach patience, another may teach humility or strength. Clarity often arrives only after you move, not before. You cannot think your way into absolute certainty. You can only live your way into understanding. Self-criticism masquerading as responsibility. Many overthinkers believe their self-judgment is discipline. They tell themselves, if I'm hard on myself, I'll improve. If I replay mistakes, I won't repeat them. But relentless self-criticism doesn't create growth. It creates fear. Fear of trying, fear of speaking, fear of showing up as an imperfect human being. Growth thrives in environments of compassion and curiosity, not punishment. A healthier question than, what's wrong with me, is, what was I needing or trying to protect in that moment? That question doesn't excuse behavior. It explains it. And explaining opens the door to change. Letting yourself off the stand. Imagine stepping out of that inner courtroom. Imagine setting down the gavel. Imagine allowing yourself to be human, not flawless, but sincere. You are allowed to look at your past and say, I was doing the best I could with the tools I had then. You are allowed to look at your current fears and say, I don't know everything, but I can learn. You are allowed to look toward the future and say, whatever happens, I will meet it when it arrives. This is not avoidance. This is trust. Trust in your capacity to adapt, to repair, to continue. A new kind of decision making. When the next decision weighs on you, try this simple reset. Identify the values involved. Ask, which choice is most aligned with who I want to be? Accept that discomfort is part of growth. No meaningful path is completely painless. Commit to learning, not perfection. Tell yourself, whatever I choose, I will stay present and adjust. Notice how much lighter that feels than trying to predict every outcome. You don't need the perfect decision. You just need an honest one, made with awareness, care, and courage. Stepping out of judgment. As you practice this, the courtroom in your mind begins to dissolve. You stop interrogating every memory. You stop cross-examining every feeling. You stop sentencing yourself to guilt for simply being human. And slowly, something softer replaces judgment. Understanding, patience, self-respect. You realize that peace was never hiding inside the perfect choice. It was waiting in the permission to be imperfect and still worthy of kindness. Overthinking loses power the moment you step down from the judge's chair and return to your life as a participant, not a defendant. And from here, the path forward becomes a little clearer. Not because the world has changed, but because the way you treat yourself finally has. Chapter 5. When your body starts speaking for you. Overthinking doesn't only live in the mind, it settles into the body, quietly, persistently, faithfully. You may not always notice the thoughts that spiral, but you feel their echo, the tightness in your chest, the aching shoulders, the light pressure behind your eyes, the knot that sits in your stomach, even on calm days. Your body becomes a messenger, repeating what your mind refuses to hear. You are carrying too much. The silent weight of constant alertness. When you overthink, your nervous system stays on standby, alert, tense, ready for a danger that rarely arrives. It's like keeping your hand hovering over a fire alarm all day, just in case. Your breath becomes shallow, your sleep turns restless, your muscles forget what relaxation feels like, and eventually exhaustion shows up. Not the kind that sleep fixes, but the kind that comes from being mentally on all the time. You may tell yourself, I'm just stressed, or I'll rest when things calm down. But waiting for life to become calm before you allow yourself to rest means you may never rest at all. Calm isn't something you wait for, it's something you practice. Listening instead of pushing through. Most of us learn to ignore our bodies. We were told to be productive, to keep going, to toughen up, to treat fatigue as weakness instead of wisdom. But your body is not the enemy. It's the oldest part of you, the part that has survived every emotional storm. When your shoulders tense, it may be saying, I don't feel safe. When your chest feels heavy, it might be whispering, this is too much for me alone. When your jaw aches from clenching, it could be begging, please let me soften. You don't heal by forcing quiet. You heal by listening deeply. A moment to reset. Let's try something small together. Lower your shoulders, unclench your jaw. Let your tongue rest gently on the floor of your mouth. Take a slow breath in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale slowly for 6. Again. In. Hold. Release. Notice how your thoughts slightly loosen when your body softens first. This is not magic, it is biology. Your nervous system learns safety not through more thinking, but through repeated experiences of calm. Each breath is like telling your brain, we are safe right now, you can stand down. Rest is not laziness. Overthinkers often believe they must earn rest. Only after the list is complete. Only after everyone else is okay. Only after every possible problem has been solved. But rest isn't a reward. It is maintenance. You do not wait for your car to break before changing the oil. You do not wait for your phone to die before charging it. Your mind and body deserve the same consistent care. Taking breaks, walking outside, stretching, laughing, feeling sunlight on your skin, these are not luxuries. They are grounding tools, teaching your nervous system what peace feels like so it can return there more easily. Making space for your humanity. As you learn to listen to your body, you become more honest with yourself. You begin to say, I'm overwhelmed. I need a moment. I can't hold all of this alone. Not with shame, with dignity. Your body is not betraying you when it tightens or trembles. It is inviting you to pause, to care, to breathe, to slow the rush of thoughts that won't let go. And slowly, the more you respond with compassion, the less your body needs to shout to get your attention. Overthinking will still knock at your door, but now you will meet it differently. Grounded, present, aware of the signals within you. You realize that peace isn't found by conquering your mind, but by befriending your entire self. And that relationship with your body becomes one of the most powerful tools you have in your journey back to calm. Chapter 6. Teaching your nervous system to feel safe. There is an important truth about overthinking that most people never learn. Your thoughts are not always the problem. Your nervous system is. When your nervous system feels unsafe, your brain goes into survival mode. It scans, predicts, analyzes, and prepares. Not because you are weak, but because your biology is doing what it believes will protect you. This is why logic alone rarely quiets anxiety. You can tell yourself everything is fine, while your body continues to tighten, tremble, or panic. The body needs to experience safety, not just hear about it. Living in survival mode. When you live in prolonged stress, your system adapts. It learns that being tense is normal. It learns that rest is dangerous. It learns that calm is unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels threatening. So even when things finally quiet down, your body may stay braced, expecting the next wave. You might notice yourself jumping at small noises, replaying conversations long after they end, assuming danger. In neutral situations, finding it hard to simply sit still. This isn't you being dramatic. It is your nervous system saying, we've been here before, and it wasn't safe. But the beautiful thing about the nervous system is this. It can learn. It can rewire. It can be taught gently that life is not an emergency. Safety comes in small signals. You don't reset your nervous system through big dramatic changes. You do it through small, repeated cues of safety. Warm light, calm voices, slow breathing, predictable routines. Moments of quiet where nothing bad happens. Every time you pause and breathe, every time you choose presence instead of panic, every time you show yourself kindness, your nervous system collects data. Oh, maybe we are okay here. This isn't instant relief. It's gradual trust building, like befriending a scared animal who needs time to approach. A grounding practice for overthinking. When you feel flooded with thoughts, try the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. Look around and name, out loud or silently, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Notice how your attention shifts from the storm inside your head to the world around you, the world you are actually in. Your nervous system recognizes reality. No tiger, no attack, no present danger. Just a moment, unfolding safely. Gentle rhythm, gentle mind. Overthinking thrives on chaos. It relaxes with rhythm, consistent sleep, regular meals, short walks at the same time each day, moments of quiet before screens take over. These rhythms aren't restrictions. They're anchors, reminders to your body that life has structure, and structure brings safety. You may not control everything, but you can create little islands of steadiness in your day, and your mind will begin to soften around them. You are not broken. Many people blame themselves for anxious bodies and restless minds. They think, I should be stronger. Other people handle life better. What's wrong with me? But nothing is wrong with you. Your body adapted to stress. Your mind adapted to uncertainty. It learned to survive, even if that survival strategy now feels exhausting. Healing isn't about forcing yourself to be calm. It's about creating conditions where calm becomes possible. More rest, more compassion, more listening to your body instead of overriding it. With time, your nervous system learns, I don't have to stay on high alert anymore. And when the body relaxes, the mind no longer needs to overthink every situation. They heal together, slowly, honestly, patiently. Chapter 7. When rest feels undeserved. There's a quiet belief many overthinkers carry. I'll rest when I've earned it. Rest becomes a prize at the end of endless productivity, a permission slip granted only when every task is finished, every message answered, every responsibility neatly in place. But life rarely looks that tidy. There is always one more task, one more email, one more thing to worry about. So rest keeps getting postponed, not for minutes, but for months, sometimes years. And slowly exhaustion becomes your normal. The guilt of slowing down. When you finally try to rest, guilt shows up immediately. A voice says, you should be doing something. Other people work harder. You're falling behind. So instead of relaxing, you scroll. You half rest. Your body is on the couch, but your mind keeps running marathons. This isn't laziness, it's unpracticed safety. Your brain has linked productivity with worth and stillness with danger. Because stillness gives your thoughts room to speak. And sometimes what they say feels uncomfortable. So the mind stays busy, not because it loves work, but because it fears silence. Why your brain resists. Rest requires trust. Trust that the world won't collapse if you step away. Trust that you don't need to earn every breath. Trust that your value doesn't disappear when you stop performing. If you grew up in chaos, you may have learned that slowing down meant vulnerability. If you were praised only for achievement, you may have connected rest with failure. Your brain is not punishing you. It is trying to maintain the identity that once kept you safe. If I'm useful, I'm allowed to stay. But you are no longer that powerless child. Your worth does not come from constant motion. Practicing permission. Rest isn't a luxury reserved for people who have finished. Rest is maintenance, a needed reset for your body and mind. Start small. Give yourself permission to take 10 minutes of quiet, a short walk, a nap without explanation, a night where you don't solve everyone's problems. When guilt rises, and it will, try saying, "My rest helps me think clearly. Rest helps me show up better. I am allowed to recharge." Guilt may still whisper, but you don't have to obey it. Over time, those small moments of rest teach your nervous system a new truth. Calm is not dangerous. Calm is healing. Sleep and the overthinking brain. Sleep isn't just physical, it is emotional processing. When you deprive yourself of deep rest, problems feel bigger, reactions stronger, patience shorter. Your brain cannot organize thoughts or regulate emotions efficiently. That's when spiraling becomes easier. You lie in bed and replay mistakes. You dramatize future disasters. You stare at the ceiling, bargaining with your own thoughts. Instead of fighting your mind at midnight, support it during the day. Consistent sleep times, less stimulation before bed, and moments of winding down before the lights go out. You are not weak for needing sleep. You are human. Creating a kinder rhythm. Imagine living in a body that is allowed to pause before it collapses. Imagine measuring your days not only by what you accomplished, but by how kindly you treated yourself along the way. Rest does not slow your progress. Rest sustains it. And when the mind no longer has to earn every moment of peace, something incredible happens. Overthinking softens. Perspective returns. You begin to feel like yourself again. Because clarity doesn't come from forcing focus. It comes from a rested nervous system that finally believes, I am safe enough to stop for a while. Chapter 8. Making Peace with Uncertainty. If overthinking had a favorite fuel, it would be uncertainty. Not knowing, waiting, being between answers, between decisions, between versions of yourself. The mind hates that space. It wants clarity, right now. It wants conclusions, guarantees, locks on every possible door. So, when life is uncertain, the mind tries to fill the gap with predictions. What if this goes wrong? What if they leave? What if I choose something I can't undo? But the more you try to control uncertainty, The tighter your body feels and the louder your thoughts become. Because uncertainty isn't meant to be controlled. It's meant to be lived through. Life has always been uncertain. Think back to moments in your life you worried about intensely, conversations you dreaded, transitions you feared, changes you swore you wouldn't survive. Yet here you are, not untouched, but still standing. Some things turned out better than expected. Some things turned out differently than planned. Some things hurt and still led to growth you could not have predicted. Uncertainty has always been the backdrop of life. You simply forgot because predictability can feel like safety. But predictability and safety are not the same. Safety comes from within, from knowing you can adapt, ask for help, and take the next step, even without the full map. The truth about control, overthinking often disguises itself as responsibility, but beneath it lies a longing for control. Control over outcomes, control over other people's reactions, control over how life unfolds. Yet control is fragile. It fractures the moment something unpredictable happens. And life is full of unpredictable moments. Instead of control, consider something stronger, confidence in your capacity to respond. You don't need the future to behave. You just need to trust yourself more than you trust your fear. Sitting with the unknown. Learning to tolerate uncertainty is like strengthening a muscle. At first, it feels unbearable. The urge to check, plan, and seek reassurance is almost physical. But you breathe, you stay. You let the moment exist without forcing answers. And with each repetition, your nervous system quietly learns. We can survive not knowing. You begin to discover that most uncomfortable feelings pass when you stop fighting them. Not all at once, but gradually, like waves softening against sand. Choosing curiosity over catastrophe. When uncertainty arises, try replacing, "What if something terrible happens?" with, "I wonder how this will unfold." Curiosity opens. Catastrophe closes. Curiosity says, "Maybe there are possibilities I can't see yet. Maybe this delay is protection, not punishment. Maybe something new is taking shape." Curiosity doesn't deny the risk. It simply remembers that risk is not the only outcome. Expanding your capacity. As you practice, you'll notice something subtle. You stop needing every answer immediately. You stop chasing constant reassurance. You stop collapsing every unknown into disaster. You begin to trust timing. You begin to trust your ability to adjust. You begin slowly to trust life again. Uncertainty doesn't vanish, but it no longer feels like a threat. It becomes a doorway, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes miraculous, but always leading you somewhere new. And instead of overthinking every step, you find yourself taking them, gently, bravely, one at a time. Chapter 9, Learning to Trust Yourself Again. Overthinking slowly erodes something essential, self-trust. When every decision is questioned, when every instinct is doubted, when every feeling is examined under a microscope, you begin to believe a painful narrative. "I can't trust myself." So you outsource decisions. You ask for reassurance. You compare your choices with everyone else's. You delay, hesitate, and second guess. Not because you lack intelligence, but because you secretly fear your own judgment. But here's the truth you may have forgotten. You have made countless good decisions. Quiet ones, small ones, everyday ones, that shaped who you are today. Self-trust isn't built by being perfect. It's built by noticing the ways you have always found a way forward. How doubt creeps in self-trust is often weakened in environments where mistakes were punished harshly, emotions were dismissed or mocked, love felt conditional, or your needs were consistently ignored. In those spaces, you learned, my feelings don't matter. If I listen to myself, I get hurt. Other people know better than I do. Overthinking stepped in as protection, a way to try to avoid further pain. But what once protected you is now holding you back. And healing asks you to do something brave, to listen to yourself again, slowly, gently, without pressure. Rebuilding the relationship, self-trust grows like any relationship, through small promises kept. Not dramatic declarations, not overnight transformations, just consistent honesty with yourself. Start with things like, I will stop when I'm tired. I will say no when I'm at my limit. I will tell the truth, even when it's awkward. Each time you follow through, a quiet voice inside whispers, thank you. I can rely on you. That voice is the seed of self-trust. From fear of mistakes to confidence and repair. Overthinking tries to avoid all errors. But real confidence doesn't come from never messing up. It comes from knowing you can repair when you do. You can apologize. You can adjust course. You can learn. You don't shatter when a decision goes differently than expected. You adapt. And suddenly, choices feel lighter. Not because they're guaranteed to be perfect, but because you know you'll meet whatever comes with courage and care. Listening to your inner compass. Somewhere beneath the noise, there is a quieter voice inside you. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't panic. It simply nudges. This feels right. This feels heavy. This isn't for me. Overthinking often drowns out that voice, replacing it with endless what-ifs. But when you slow down, breathe, and check in, you'll find that your inner compass never stopped working. It was simply buried beneath fear. Trust grows each time you choose that voice, even in small ways. Becoming your own safe place. As self-trust returns, something shifts. You no longer chase constant reassurance. You listen to advice, but you no longer abandon yourself to follow it. You stop asking permission to live your own life. You realize, I don't need absolute certainty. I trust myself to navigate what comes. This is where overthinking begins to lose its anchor. Because when you trust yourself, the future becomes less terrifying, mistakes become lessons, and life becomes something you participate in, not something you constantly brace against. And slowly, lovingly, you come back home to yourself. Chapter 10, Coming Home to Your Life. There comes a moment in every healing journey when you realize something subtle has changed. Your thoughts are still there. Uncertainty still shows up. Life is still imperfect and unpredictable. But you are different. You don't chase every worry. You don't rehearse every conversation. You don't treat your mind like a problem that must be controlled at all costs. Instead, you notice. You breathe. You respond rather than react. And slowly you begin to inhabit your life again, instead of living mostly inside your head. The gift of returning, overthinking once felt like safety, a constant attempt to stay ahead of pain. Now you know something deeper. Peace isn't found by predicting the future. Peace is found by returning to the present, returning to the warmth of a conversation, returning to the taste of food you didn't rush through, returning to moments of laughter that didn't need analysis, returning to simple days that didn't have to prove anything. Each return is a quiet act of self-respect, a promise that your lived experiences deserve your full attention. Life will still happen. This journey isn't about eliminating discomfort. There will still be days when your chest tightens, when fear rises, when the brain begins stacking worst-case scenarios like dominoes. But now you have tools. You pause. You breathe from your belly. You ground yourself in what you can see, hear, and feel. You ask, is this real or imagined? You take the next small step, not because everything is certain, but because you trust yourself to navigate uncertainty with grace. And that trust changes everything. Letting go without giving up. Letting go is often misunderstood. People think it means not caring, not trying, not loving. But letting go doesn't mean detaching from life. It means releasing the illusion that you can control every outcome. It means saying, I will show up fully. I will do my best. And after that, I will allow life to unfold. Letting go creates space. Space for serendipity, timing, new paths, new lessons, new beginnings that overthinking would have never allowed. A different kind of strength. Real strength isn't white-knuckled tension. It isn't the constant effort to hold your world together. Real strength is softer. It is knowing when to rest, knowing when to ask for help, knowing when to stop arguing with your mind and lead it back gently to the present. It is choosing compassion over punishment, curiosity over catastrophe, patience over panic. You become a steadier place for yourself to live in. Carrying this forward. As you step beyond this chapter, remember, you will still overthink sometimes. You will still stumble. You will still have days where you forget every strategy you've learned. That's okay. Growth is not linear. Healing is not a performance. What matters is the return, the willingness to come back to your breath, to your body, to the truth that right here, right now, you are safe enough to simply be. Over time, that return becomes instinctive. You begin trusting yourself not only to survive life, but to truly experience it. Moments feel richer, connections feel deeper. You notice small joys you used to rush past because you are finally here. A final whisper: if your mind ever tries to convince you that you are behind, that you are too much, that you are not doing this healing thing fast enough, place a hand on your chest and remind yourself, I am learning, I am becoming gentler with myself, I am allowed to grow at my own pace. And then take one small step, not toward perfection, but toward presence. That is how overthinking loosens its grip. That is how peace returns, quietly, steadily, honestly. And that is how you come home to a life that no longer needs constant control, just your wholehearted participation. Conclusion: a quieter way of living. You've walked through fear, uncertainty, self-doubt, tiredness, and long-held habits of overthinking. And you did it with curiosity instead of judgment, patience instead of punishment. That matters, because this journey has never been about becoming a different person. It has always been about uncovering the calm, capable, grounded part of you that was buried beneath noise and survival. The noise may still visit, but now you can recognize it. You can say, this is a thought, this is a feeling, this is not the whole truth about me or my life. And that awareness changes everything. You are no longer fighting your mind. Once you tried to win by thinking harder, planning further, tightening more. Now you understand, your nervous system needs safety, your body needs rest, your thoughts need leadership, not fear. Your heart needs compassion, not criticism. You are no longer standing in the middle of the storm screaming at it to stop. You are stepping out of it, finding shelter, and letting it pass. That is wisdom, earned through experience, practice, and courage. The work continues. Gently healing doesn't end because a book ends. You will have days when old patterns return. You will have moments where overthinking feels louder again. That doesn't mean you've gone backward. It means you are human, and humans revisit lessons until they sink in. Every time you breathe instead of spiral, pause instead of panic, listen instead of attack yourself, you are reinforcing a new way of living. Not dramatic, not flashy, but steady. And steady is what the nervous system loves most. What you carry forward. Take these truths with you. You don't need certainty to move forward. You don't need perfection to be worthy. You don't need to overthink to stay safe. You can rest and still be responsible. You can trust yourself slowly, again and again. And when life gets loud, because it will, come back to the basics. Breathe. Notice the present. Choose the next kind step. Let the rest unfold. You are capable of more kindness toward yourself than your fear ever believed. A final blessing for the road. May your thoughts grow quieter, not because you force them silent, but because they finally feel safe. May your choices feel lighter, not because you know exactly what will happen, but because you trust your ability to meet whatever comes. May your days feel fuller, not because they are perfect, but because you are actually here for them. Awake, present, participating. And when the familiar urge to overthink returns, may you remember this simple truth. You are allowed to live your life, not just think about it. Thank you for walking this part of the journey. And wherever you go next, go gently, with patience, with courage, and with the steady knowing that peace is never lost. It is always something you can return to. Dedication for the quiet warriors, for the ones who stayed awake replaying conversations no one else remembered, for the hearts that loved deeply, thought endlessly, and still showed up anyway. This book is for your courage to keep going, and your willingness to believe that peace is possible. May you always find your way back to calm, to clarity, and to yourself. Alhaji Abubakar, Sadiq Abdullahi. Acknowledgements. This project could not have come to life without the people whose presence, wisdom, and support guided me along the way. To my family, thank you for your patience, strength, and constant belief in me. You have been my grounding place in every season. To my friends, your conversations, honesty, and encouragement shape these chapters more than you know. To the therapists, counselors, and mental health advocates whose work continues to change lives, your commitment inspired much of what is written here. To every reader and listener who has shared their stories of overthinking, anxiety, and self-doubt, thank you for trusting me with your vulnerability. Your voices reminded me why this work matters. And to anyone who has ever felt too much, too quiet, or not enough, you showed me that healing begins where honesty begins. With gratitude, Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Abdullahi. About the author Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Abdullahi is a writer who explores emotional well-being, self-awareness, and the everyday courage it takes to live with clarity and peace. His work focuses on helping people quiet mental noise, rebuild self-trust, and reconnect with the present moment. Guided by curiosity and compassion, he writes with the belief that true growth is not about becoming someone else, but about gently returning to who we already are beneath worry and fear. When he is not writing, Alhaji enjoys reflective time, meaningful conversations, and moments of stillness that allow the mind to settle and the heart to breathe. He continues to create work that supports others on their path toward calm, resilience, and inner confidence. Closing note. Stay connected. Thank you for journeying through this book. If it helped you breathe a little easier, think a little kinder, or feel a little less alone, I would love to hear from you. Your reflections not only encourage me, they help others find hope along their own path. You are welcome to share what spoke to you, how the book supported your healing, or a message about your experience. And if you feel inspired, recommend this book to someone who might need it. You never know whose life a single page may gently touch. Wherever life leads you next, carry this truth with you. You are allowed to live more peacefully, one moment at a time. With appreciation, Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Abdullahi,